Presidential transition team is rolling, and the Trump Tower lobby filled and flowing with job seekers and aspirants to important posts in the Trump White House and administration. No one seems to be enjoying it all more than the president-elect himself, and he is tireless. Today came the announcement that Mr. Trump has named 2 new members to his cabinet. Mr. Trump selecting Congressman Tom Price of Georgia to lead the Department of Health and Human Services and Elaine Chao to head the Transportation Department. Price has been a vocal critic of Obamacare and has introduced legislation proposing replacements to the law in every Congress since 2009. Chao is a former labor secretary in the Bush administration. She is married to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. The Wall Street Journal tonight also reporting a veteran Wall Street financier is Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary. The announcement of former Goldman Sachs banker Steve Mnuchin may come as early as tomorrow. Reports also that billionaire investor Wilbur Ross is expected to be named Secretary of the Department of Commerce, and that announcement could come as well early as tomorrow. The big question is, who will the president-elect Who will he choose to be his Secretary of State? Trump is having a private dinner tonight with one of those candidates. He's dining with Governor Mitt Romney. Romney is perhaps the most likely choice at this point, certainly the most unlikely at the outset of the president-elect's deliberations. And Senate Foreign Relations Chair Bob Corker, still in the mix for the position. He met with Mr. Trump today and called it all an honor.
Secretary of State's role is so important to a president. He needs to choose someone that he's very comfortable with, that he knows there's going to be no daylight between him and them. The world needs to know that the Secretary of State is someone who speaks fully for the president. And again, that's a decision he's going to have to make. Again, it's an honor to be here.
More contenders. The initial favorite for the post, longtime confidant and trusted advisor, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He spent more time today with Donald Trump. Here now to talk about Trump's expanding cabinet are Republican strategists Tony Sayegh and Matt Schlapp. Also joining me tonight, former Reagan White House political director Ed Rollins and member of the House Appropriations Committee, Congressman John Culberson, who is ensuring the new Trump administration is ready to crack down on sanctuary cities from day one. We have a lot to cover here tonight, including the worsening crisis of radical Islamists in America. The Islamic State is now claiming responsibility for yesterday's attack at Ohio State, where a Somali refugee ran pedestrians down with a car and then stabbed others with a knife. It turns out Speaker Paul Ryan and Republican lawmakers have overseen the large-scale importation of Somali immigrants and refugees to this country and have failed to do anything about it. Our top story tonight, a busy day for Donald Trump. The president-elect held meetings with at least 7 potential cabinet members. Trump met with 3 House members, Homeland Security Chairman Michael McCaul, Congressman Lou Barletta, and Congressman Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. From the business world, President and CEO of Rolls-Royce America, Marion Blakey, and the President and Chief Operating Officer of Goldman Sachs, Gary Cohn, all visiting Trump Tower today. As for the 2 appointments announced today, Trump called Congressman Price, a 6-term lawmaker, orthopedic surgeon, quote, extremely qualified to lead the Health and Human Services Department and the fight against Obamacare. Trump also nominated Washington insider Elaine Chao as his Secretary of Transportation. Chao served as Secretary of Labor under President George W. Bush for both of his terms. In the private sector, Chao was president and CEO of United Way of America, vice president at Bank America Capital Markets Group, and banker with Citicorp. Joining me now, chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp, and Republican campaign strategist, Fox News contributor Tony Sayegh. Great to have you both here.
Good evening, Lou.
Let's start with first these appointments. Elaine Chao, a reliable Republican figure who has had extensive public service, obviously married to the Senate Majority Leader. One thinks that she should have no problem with confirmation there. But Matt, as we look at Mnuchin and the others that we're waiting on here, what do you make of it all?
Wow, I mean, I got attacked by a lot of people during the campaign process saying, how can you help Donald Trump? Is he really going to govern as a conservative? And you look at these cabinet picks and his White House picks, and there's no doubt that he wants to reduce the size and scope of government in our lives, and I'm pretty excited about all these picks.
And Tony, as we're talking about these picks, the pick that is looming here is the man he's having dinner with, and that is, of course, Governor Romney, who was the nastiest, vilest, most energized, by the way, more energized than at any time in his life, at least his public life.
Sure. Right.
What do you make of the potential choice?
And we've heard the candid concerns of a lot of Republicans, particularly those from inside the Trump team.
You're putting that very nicely.
Well, we're talking about Secretary of State.
My Twitter account has exploded.
I'm being diplomatic. Look, the fact that Donald Trump has given Mitt Romney even this much consideration defies every ounce of logic. It also goes to show you that Donald Trump has shifted into two modes that I think are very important to watch: the governing mode and the unifying mode. Now, I think he has to be very careful with this particular pick, considering the amount of pushback, the grassroots organization around it. We heard some of those concerns reflected with Kellyanne Conway's comments over the weekend. So this is
the more you say that this is an unwise and it's a provocative choice, Donald is not above making the choice just because someone says it's impossible.
But look, there's virtues to it as well. There's pros and there's cons. The cons have very recently begun to outweigh the pros, at least in the public debate around this possible pick. But it seems to be an awful big step to have dinner. Apparently the wives are also joining them tonight as well. Very interpersonal type of dynamic. So I think all of us are watching with real anticipation to see what kind of maneuver comes out of this conversation.
Matt, have you got it figured out?
I don't. I will just say this. I'm all for bringing the party together. I'm all for all these people.
Wait a minute. I want to write that down. SLAP is for unity. Okay, I got it.
I'm for it. I'm for it, but
This feels like one of your cautious
moments. Were you for before you were against it?
This is one of your cautious moments, isn't it?
Here's the rest of the statement. I'd much rather have somebody who is close to the president be the Secretary of State, and somebody who understands that ferocious building filled with bureaucrats who just really hamstring presidents. Someone like a John Bolton, to me, is such a clear choice. It's Donald Trump's choice to make, not mine. The American people put him in this position, and I trust his judgment. But I worry about giving Mitt Romney this particular position, but we're going to see what happens.
On the other side of that is look at President Obama. He did select Hillary Clinton as his Secretary of State. He did select John Kerry. They had no personal relationship whatsoever and didn't seem to have much of one other than dispatching orders and receiving orders while Kerry, in the second term, carried out the role of Secretary of State. It is and Colin Powell in the Bush administration, as you know.
Yeah, but
I mean, these are.
But Lou, those names, when they went to foreign countries, they were seen as very important people, very close to the person that they worked with. And the problem with Mitt Romney, because of his Twitter rants against Donald Trump, every time he goes
I get kind of confused here. To me, it's real simple. Whoever's in that job is going to be working for the President of the United States.
That's right. That is true.
Unless we have a president who is leading from behind. Then you get some complications.
We won't have that problem.
And that's the big difference, by the way. We've had 8 years of the faculty lounge administration, academics, theoreticians, all people who have not brought any practical experience or accomplishments to the job under the Obama administration. At the very least, we're having conversations, albeit in some cases controversial, about people who've done things. They've been problem solvers, fixers, generals,
Where's
CEOs.
Rudy Giuliani? The initial favorite. The man who has stood at the side of Donald Trump throughout his campaign, his advisor, his confidant, his trusted friend. Tony?
Well, look, I think Rudy's still very much in this mix. Clearly, he is the choice.
Met with him today.
Of a lot of people very loyal to Donald Trump. Right. But Donald Trump himself has pointed out, by the way, just reporting what we've heard out in the news, he's cited Doris Kearns Goodwin's book, Team of Rivals, citing Abraham Lincoln's decision to mix it up.
You put Romney in that cabinet, it becomes the team of enemies. He's an enemy, not a rival.
And Lou, that has been the prevailing sentiment that is emerging, which is why, as much as I agree with Matt, and we are going to have to trust President-elect Trump to use his judgment to pick the best person for the job, it has become a lot more problematic than it was at the start.
I have never heard the two of you be more diplomatic. It is remarkable. And
we're talking about Secretary of State.
And Matt, I'm going to turn to you to wrap it up with, if you wish, a second appeal to unity.
Yeah, right. Well, let me tell you this. I think Mitt Romney is someone who has turned businesses around. Let him go over to the VA. That is a mess. It's been a disgrace. Let him turn around their wait times and their online problems. Give him a real serious problem to solve, and I'll be for it.
Yeah, and the truth is, maybe that is where he could work. I don't know, but I have to tell you, whoever the president puts in there, he's made it clear it's going to be his priority, and they better be ready to deliver. Matt Slapp, Tony Sagg, thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Caution and all. We're coming right back with much more. We will not be too cautious in the following segments, I assure you. Stay with us. The president-elect working nonstop to build his White House team.
It'll be a busy day. Stay tuned.
As the president-elect assembles his team, who will he choose to serve as his Secretary of State? A big question, a burning question. Will it be a loyalist or an establishment insider? The Dean, strategist Ed Rollins, joins me here next. And the president-elect issuing a strong warning to those who would burn the American flag. The radical left-wing media don't like Trump's America First principles. We'll take that up and much more straight ahead. Stay with us. The Wisconsin Elections Commission has just confirmed that Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein did successfully wire the $3.5 million required for the recount that she demanded. The process will now begin Thursday. The Hillary Clinton campaign says they're still backing the move, fully participating. This despite the fact there's no evidence that any machines were rigged, that there were any kind of irregularities in the vote. There's also the fact that Donald Trump did beat Clinton in Wisconsin by more than 22,000 votes. In Pennsylvania, a hearing has just been set for December 5th to hear Stein's arguments for a statewide recount there. She missed the deadline to file on November 21st. She needs 3 voters from each of the state's 9,000 voting precincts in order to submit affidavits. There is a big question hanging, of course, over Pennsylvania, not in terms of the vote, but in terms of whether or not there will be a recount. The wrangling over the recount, despite the fact that Trump trounced Clinton in Pennsylvania by more than 70,000 votes. And there is no evidence there either of irregularities. And Stein says she plans to petition for a recount in Michigan by Wednesday's deadline. Trump beat Hillary Clinton in Michigan by more than 10,000 votes. Meanwhile, Stein has been raking in millions of dollars for this recount. It has been a very big deal for her, raising more money than she ever thought of raising for her own campaign. She's raised $6.5 million so far. She is now asking her supporters, guess what? For more money. Have you ever seen this movie? She claims her recount effort in 3 states will now cost $9.5 million. This is one of the highest rates of inflation we've seen in this country on anything, to watch the original price tag now rise to $9.5 million. Joining me now, Great America PAC strategist, former Reagan White House political director, veteran of 10 presidential campaigns, Ed Rollins. The Dean is with us here.
Thank you. I would predict that that there will not be 1,000 votes changed in that recount. In
all 3 or in Michigan?
In Michigan. It just won't be. All 3 is probably 2,000. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. By the time they get down, this is carefully done. It's just a waste of money, waste of time. She's doing this to get her name out there.
Yeah, there is a troubling aspect, though, the idea of pushing things off here till December 5th for adjudication. There's a deadline of the 13th of December, as everyone knows, to get those certified electors into place and a vote on the 19th of December.
December 19th, he's going to win over 300 electoral votes, and on January 20th, he'll be inaugurated.
All right,
that's the reality. So
there you have it. Ed Rollins has just adjudicated the recount. And by the way, since they're not doing a hand recount, we can just take take the numbers you've given us. I would accept.
I chose not to make a recount when I was challenged by the state chairman in Minnesota, where we lost by 3,100 votes with Reagan. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. And he said, we've got dead Indians who voted along the Canadian border. Congressman Ben Weber was our chairman. I said, no, we're not going to do that. Let's just move on. Of course, we'd won 49 states, but we could have won 50.
Yeah, Ben Weber still keeping his hand in, as they say. Let's turn to what we don't know. We've seen the cabinet filling out. Elaine Chao moving into position at transportation. We hear Steve Mnuchin is going to be the Treasury Secretary, that Wilbur Ross is going to be the Commerce Secretary. The questions are now all focused into one, and that is who will be the Secretary of State. Meeting with Governor Romney, having dinner with Governor Romney and his wife, as it turns out, the Trumps are.
I think I think the test will be who picks up the bill. If Romney picks up the bill, he might get another day, another meeting. One we missed, I think, as a board, Tom Price today, the congressman who's going to be the new HHS, who really basically is a doctor, knows how to repeal and replace this bill. That's very important. I still don't think...
Doctor and chairman of the Budget Committee, one of the most knowledgeable people, the smartest and knowledgeable. Those two often go together, don't they, folks?
Which is very important.
Yeah.
I just think that if Romney is chosen, as we said last night, I think he's going to... All the good people that he's measured, it's going to offset all that. I just don't... I think we've tried this experiment of sending a guy from Boston to be the Secretary of State. We just taken the airplane away from on January 20th. That's Kerry. I don't think you want a real rival. The whole BS about the team of rivals. When I first started this, when Nixon was president, he put in 6 governors. 3 of them he had to fire. This was a team of rivals. The first one was a guy by the name of Romney, who was the HUD secretary.
George Romney.
George Romney.
Former governor of Michigan, and of course Mitt Romney's father.
Who basically wouldn't respond to the White House and what they wanted to do.
You may not believe this. There are people watching us right now who are so young they don't remember George Romney. Maybe not President Nixon like you and I do.
Well, he had to end up getting rid of 3 of the 6, and because the truth of the matter is you got to pick a team that's yours. And I think the reality is he's got an outstanding cast of characters. He's displayed to the American public all the good talent that's around. And this was a guy who 2 months ago people didn't think not only couldn't win, but no one would serve in his administration. And this has been his distinguished cast.
I love watching those people, Ed, running through the lobby. I mean, I've seen shorter lines in 1930s pictures, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
Ed, it's great to have you.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much. How do you think it comes out? Who's he going to pick for Secretary of State? Can't let you go without getting you in the book.
I'm in the anybody but Romney camp, and I have been. So there's a couple other choices. Rudy would be my first choice because I think he's been most loyal and very talented. I like Petraeus.
Now, if Donald Trump were sitting right there next to you and asked you who should be Secretary of State, you wouldn't say anybody but Trump. Who do you want?
I want Rudy Giuliani. I think Rudy busted his tail for him, and I think loyalty is important.
I'm glad I asked that question because I love that answer. Ed Rollins, as always, thanks for your answers. We appreciate it. Good to see you. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question is, do you believe the country will ever awaken to the subversive threat posed by the American left? That's right, it's not a dress rehearsal. They really mean business. Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs tonight. And on Wall Street, stock prices closing higher. The Dow up 24 points. The S&P up 3. The Nasdaq up 11. Volume on the big board picking up a bit. 3.7 billion shares. Banks reporting record profits in the third quarter, topping $45 billion. Crude oil plunged, however, down nearly 4% over doubts OPEC will cut production at its meeting tomorrow. Crude oil settling near $45 a barrel. The dollar is on track for its best month against the Japanese yen since 2009, up about 0.5% against the yen today. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network. Well, up next, Donald Trump has said the economy is his priority.
I've asked my transition team to develop a list of executive actions we can take on day one to restore our laws and bring back our jobs. It's about time.
About time, and he's ahead of schedule. He's not even in office yet, but the economy already heading in the right direction in lots of places. That's the subject of my commentary here next. Stay with us. 3 weeks since the election, investors are loving the Trump rally on Wall Street, and what a difference the prospect of his new leadership making to the economy. Donald Trump doesn't take the White House for another 51 days, and already he's having an influence, a positive influence, a beautiful influence on the economy. The Trump economy is rolling big time. Home prices rose in September, exceeding the peak set before the recession 8 years ago. I acknowledge it might be a bit of a stretch to credit all of that to Trump, but it does feel right somehow. And consumer confidence in this election month has risen to a 9-year high. A separate report gauging consumer sentiment for the most part after the election surging as well. And apparently the entire economy anticipated Trump's election in July, August, and September. Economic growth in the third quarter revised higher today, the economy expanding 3.2%. And the influential International Economic Policy Group, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, now forecasts that under President Trump, the U.S. economy growth will double by 2018. Growth will double. Back to the stock market, because that's fun. And the breathtaking Trump rally since he was elected. Markets are holding near record levels today. Since Election Day, the Dow has crossed 19,000. It's closed at a record high 8 times. The president-elect also working on jobs, holding talks with Carrier to keep their factory jobs in this country. He's already had some success with Ford Motors in holding jobs in this country. The car maker plans to move small car production from the United States to Mexico. I think at this point we would say so far it has decided that. But importantly, it's decided to keep production of the Lincoln MKC sport utility vehicle in Kentucky. More work to do, but the work has begun under this president-elect. And there it is. Call it the new optimism, resurgence, new confidence, or simply nowhere to go but up from Obama. Something is moving in these markets, in this economy. And that's something our middle class, working men and women haven't felt for a very long time. Putting America and American workers first puts prosperity in prospect. And America on our way to being great again. Our quotation of the evening, this one from Euripides, who was not only wise, but succinct. He said, "Much effort, much prosperity." Let's get to work. We're coming right back. Our lame duck president and Speaker Ryan are responsible for bringing in all but unvetted Somali refugees.
You've seen firsthand the problems caused with faulty refugee vetting, with large numbers of Somali refugees coming into your state.
Poor vetting at least partially to blame for yesterday's Ohio State University attack. Former FBI Assistant Director Bill Gavin on radical Islamists in America. New questions over the refugee resettlement program after the attack at Ohio State University. 11 injured after Somali refugee Abdul Razak Ali Artan drove his car into a crowd yesterday and then got out of that car and stabbed a number of people. As Breitbart News reported, since 2001, more than 90,000 refugees from Somalia have been admitted to the United States, including nearly 9,000 last year. President Obama earlier this year announced that he wanted a 30% increase in the number of refugees coming into this country, 110,000 this fiscal year, 40,000 of those refugees from the Near East and South Asia, 35,000 from Africa, of course, including Somalia. Yet Congress, under Speaker Paul Ryan, has done nothing to address the issue. In fact, the Ryan-led House of Representatives passed a spending bill last December fully funding the refugee resettlement program with support from leading Republicans. Legislation backed by 49 Republicans to pause and to defund the program has yet to even receive a vote. That is directly the responsibility of the Speaker of the House. President-elect Trump has said he will pause refugee admissions from countries with a history of radical terrorism. Joining me now, former Assistant Director of the FBI in New York, Bill Gavin. Bill, great to have you back with us. As we witness this huge immigration into this country, propelled by the Obama administration, aided and abetted by Speaker Ryan and many members of his conference, in particular leadership. This looks like it has all been done with a political purpose in which they didn't mind not vetting thoroughly these refugees, particularly from Somalia.
Lou, everything that has been done makes absolutely no sense in view of the dynamic problem that we have by letting people in here that aren't properly vetted. We have the ability to vet these people properly, but we don't have the will, and therefore the law enforcement and intelligence services don't have the authority to vet them properly. I have no idea why all these people need to come into this country at once. The political correctness aspect of this whole nonsense is going to kill Americans. It's a given fact.
Well, at Ohio State, they're very fortunate that no one was killed in that horrible attack, driving a car into a crowd, and the Somali refugee, who is a green carder now, attacking with a knife those folks. I mean, it's terrible. But it is becoming pretty clear, isn't it, that radical Islamist terrorism in various forms is now part of this country. There is radical Islamist terrorism in America.
Lou, you're absolutely right. Radical Islamic terrorists are the people that want to do harm to this country. Neither of us, none of us want to say that Muslims in general are just shouldn't come into this country. That's not it. Radical Muslim extremists want to put our country down, want to kill all of us and run this world according to Sharia law. We have to make sure that it doesn't happen. And I think that with what I've seen the president-elect do right now with the finances you discussed in your last piece, I have all the faith in the world that he will devote that same kind of enthusiasm to the security of our country and stop this. There are other ways to handle this problem other than let people into this country that can't be properly vetted.
You know, instead of having detractors on the left who attack Donald Trump because he represents a way forward that they never contemplated, that is an American constitutional republic that prospers, survives, and perseveres rather than one that they could successfully tear to pieces. People need to remember, we wouldn't even be talking about these refugees, these immigrants who are vulnerable to being radicalized, becoming radical Islamists, and carrying out these acts of terror if it were not for Donald Trump bringing up the issue. And the first thing that happened was the national left-wing media scoffed at him and mocked him as what unfolded has been, absolutely precisely what he predicted.
Lou, we'd still be drifting along on the absurd rhetoric that has come out of the White House over the past 8 years, and everybody would have been happy smiling at each other. They don't understand what the goal of the radical Islamic terrorist is. I saw just recently one individual who was in a Scandinavian country, right, and I can't say that he was radical, but he was a Muslim, and he said, look, here's what we can do. You invite us into your country. You bring us into your country under an immigration program. We will come, we'll have 4 wives, 5 wives, 25 children, 50 children, and sooner or later we will vote you out of your own country, and that's our goal.
Well,
simple.
It is, without question, votes seem to have been a calculation on the part of this administration's policies over the course of 8 years, and frankly, not votes for that I would take as being in either the mainstream or in the national interest. Bill Gavin, it's always good to talk with you. We appreciate you being here. Come back soon.
It's always my pleasure, Lou. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question is, do you believe this country will ever awaken to the subversive threat posed by the American left? This is not just about governance. It's about the survival of the republic itself. Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. And follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. We're nearing 1 million followers, and we want to thank you for that. Thank you profoundly. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. President-elect Donald Trump dining with Mitt Romney momentarily, we're told. We're also told the president's motorcade has arrived at Jean Georges restaurant at 61st and Central Park West. And Romney to be joining the governor and the president-elect for dinner. No word on whether Melania is joining them as well. Joining me now, host of the Mike Gallagher Show on the Salem Radio Network, Fox News contributor Mike Gallagher, former election law counsel for the Republican National Committee and the chief financial officer for, are you ready? Romney's 2008 presidential campaign. Charlie Spees, great to have you both here.
Hi, Lou.
How's it going?
Good, good.
I gotta start with Charlie. Your former boss, sitting down with the president-elect. What do you think they're talking about?
Hopefully, how Donald Trump can be a great president.
And I think that course has been laid out during the campaign. What about the governor? What role do you think he should play? You think he should be Secretary of State?
I have confidence in Donald Trump's decision, and I give him a lot of credit for sitting down with a variety of different voices, and I think he's doing a great job filling out his cabinet.
Do you think crow is on the menu at Jean Georges? Do they serve crow baked, or how do they serve crow?
Well, it'll be elegant, no matter how they do it.
You'll have to lift your pinky as you eat some of that crow. Listen, I don't know how this even comes about, because there are millions and millions of people who can't forget, with all due respect, Charlie, won't forget Governor Romney's scathing indictment of Donald Trump's character. And we appear to know how loyal Donald Trump is to those who've been loyal to him. So I don't even know how this comes about. But it's been a surreal few weeks. Maybe this is no shock that there's more surreal.
It's been, as you say, Mike, an extraordinary campaign throughout. And the contests, the passions, the outright contempt for between these elements. And there's 17 of them at one point working against each other just within the party. But it certainly was, none of it was more acrimonious and nastier and vile than Mitt Romney's attacks on Donald Trump. Do you think the governor is sincerely putting all of that aside and ready to work for the man he so vilified?
If he was offered the job, that would have to be the understanding. And I think he's extremely patriotic, and Donald Trump's our president. Mm-hmm. And if he went that direction, I have 100% confidence that Mitt Romney would be loyal and serve at the president's pleasure.
I'm not sure how you're loyal and you put that duty to country side by side with an attack that just on Trump's foundation, his character. Governor Romney called him basically a liar, dishonest, a phony, a con man. I mean, we've all trotted out the speech during the primary. That's got to be a tough thing to reconcile.
It's a little dishonest that everyone keeps trotting out the speech.
Dishonest.
The speech was during the primary, and Donald Trump's the one that's been really gracious about this. When he's been asked about this, he said he was really tough on Mitt Romney too.
Yeah, you've got to give me some credit for honesty. I said I'm much more shallow. I am much pettier than Donald Trump could ever be. You attack the man. It just doesn't feel right because it was so personal and it was so invidious and it was so there was no jurisdiction or standing for Mitt Romney, other than if he conceived of himself as some sort of archangel who's going to intervene in presidential politics and do the Lord's work. I mean, I don't understand what he was doing.
Well, as Kellyanne Conway said, there were the Never Trumpers, and then there was Mitt Romney. He was really almost in a category all unto himself, and so it's hard for me to wrap my brain around a Secretary of State being a man who attacked Trump the way he did.
We've moved from the primary into the governing phase. Mm-hmm. You guys are harping on what happened in the primary. There's precedent for this.
Yeah.
The Clinton folks were extremely nasty about Barack Obama. There's no love lost between them, but Barack Obama brought her in to his administration. So
yet Republicans are supposed to do things differently than the Democrats do, and the Democrats play a different kind of ball, different kind of hardball. Obviously Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment was shredded by the likes of the Never Trumpers and by Governor Romney in a big way.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of shredding going on. In all fairness, so how do you think this comes out? Real quickly, Charlie, what's your prediction for Secretary of State for President Donald J. Trump?
I predict that if Donald Trump picks Mitt Romney, he'll do a great job.
I'm hoping for Rudy Giuliani or John Bolton. Frankly, maybe you'll have to count me as a hashtag Never Romney. Anybody but Mitt.
Well, I think I've got to say First Giuliani, then John Bolton, and primarily not because of the difference in their qualities or capabilities or even intellect, but because, frankly, Donald Trump is closer personally to Rudy Giuliani, and I think that would be good stuff.
And he knows he's going to get a real loyal person there, too.
And that job, I think, man, needs all the friends he can get.
I'd avoid a confirmation battle, too. I think he wants to get right to work, repealing and replacing Obamacare. And
with that, I've got to say, Charlie and I never agree. I've got to say, some fights are worth having. Some battles, you just got to win. Mike Gallagher, Charlie Spees, great to have you both.
Thanks, Liz.
You're very gracious, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Breaking news. The New York Times reporting President-elect Trump will announce a major victory on jobs this Thursday. Trump and Vice President-elect Pence will reportedly be announcing that they have struck a deal with air conditioner company Carrier to keep as many as 2,000 jobs in the great state of Indiana. Carrier had planned to move those 2,000 jobs from Indiana to Mexico. That has now apparently changed. Trump to make that announcement Thursday at Carrier's Indianapolis plant. Great news. Up next, President-elect Trump vowing to slash federal funding for sanctuary cities in his first 100 days in office. My next guest ensuring Mr. Trump is able to do just that. Congressman John Culberson of the great state of Texas joins me next. Stay with us. Joining me now, Congressman John Culberson, member of the House Appropriations Committee and a great and good American. Good to see you, Congressman.
Good to be with you.
This is remarkable. Governor Greg Abbott moving forward to actually force sanctuary cities to come in line. The president-elect is saying within his first 100 days he's going to do precisely that. You have got to be, because this has been an important issue for you over these many years, you've got to feel pretty good now about the prospects of righting the country.
Lou, that's right. This election, Americans showed they want to save and preserve the America we know and love. And as the chairman of the subcommittee responsible for the Department of Justice, I'm in essence the chief financial officer for the DOJ.
Right.
And in fact, I created an off switch on July 7th. I got the Department of Justice under Loretta Lynch to notify every city and state in America that unless you comply 100% of the time with every request for information about, again, criminal illegal aliens in your custody, you will lose your federal money. So President Trump and Attorney General Sessions at noon on January 20th can use the off switch I have created and turn off all the money to the top 10 sanctuary cities in America all at once on January 20th.
Top 10, but we know that there are nearly all of the major cities in this country are sanctuary cities, so-called. We know there are 400 jurisdictions of one kind and another that are sanctuaries for illegal immigrants. How long is it going to take the Republican-led Congress and the President of the United States to turn this thing around, and, of course, Attorney General Jeff Sessions?
Well, we're going to start with these top 10 jurisdictions, and they will, by example, illustrate to every other state and city in the country that unless you hand over criminal defendants who are here illegally in your custody to be deported, you lose all your federal money. And this has already been done. I did this quietly, Lou. I didn't raise a lot of ruckus about it, but on July 7th, this notice went out to the state of Connecticut, California, New Orleans, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Miami-Dade, Milwaukee, and Las Vegas have all been formally certified as sanctuary cities, Lou. And on January 20th, unless they repeal their sanctuary policy, the state of California is going to lose $69 million at noon January 20th if President Trump chooses to do it. New York City is going to lose $15 million. So we're going to make these other states, we're going to do it by example.
Well, and that is terrific news. It's a responsible way in which to govern, which this administration, obviously, and the previous Republican administration chose not to. That is, enforce our laws.
That's exactly right.
How they ever felt empowered to ignore a federal law is certainly beyond me, but it's an arrogance that has been dispensed with as of, as you say, January 20th. Let me ask you this. We got about 30 seconds here remaining. Is there not a sufficient body of law that says we can enforce our laws, immigration laws, any other, and that we have a responsibility to do so, and we're going to do so in your city, your town, under federal law?
Lou, that's right. Using the power of the purse, I've demonstrated that Congress can use the existing authority we have. We don't need a new law. Just use the authority the founders gave us. If you want federal money, follow federal law. That's the new rule I put in place July 7th, and the switch can be thrown on January 20th.